The Harley Davidson VR1000 was a brand new, all-American superbike using the best components that were available. The project ran from 1988 to 2001 when it was canceled for lack of success. To homologate the machine for AMA racing, a minimum of 50 street-legal versions had to be made available to the public. This is one of the 50 and is still brand new. The design of this machine would be unlike any Harley Davidson. The initial design called for a liquid-cooled overhead cam V-twin housed in an entirely new chassis. It would not have any base in production Harleys and would be developed from the ground up as a race machine, aimed at competing in AMA superbikes where 1000cc twins went toe-to-toe against 754s. To be legal in AMA superbike racing, Harley needed to produce street-legal machines for homologation. AMA rules at the time were as follows. 4-cylinder machines from a small manufacturer required a minimum of 500 units to homologate, while 4-cylinder machines from major manufacturers required 1,000 units. V-twin machines only needed 50 examples to be homologated, a rule that favored Ducati's limited production numbers. The VR hit the track during the 1994 AMA Superbike season with Miguel Duhamel as the factory star rider, with the bike debuting at the Daytona 200. However, the machine had been developed with the expectations of releasing the VR around 1990 to 1991, and it would have been competitive at that time. But 4 years was too late in racing development, and by the time it was released, the VR was short on power, which put them 10 horses behind the competition. The VR1000 is a liquid-cooled 60-degree V-twin with 4 valves per cylinder. It has a 98 by 66 millimeter bore and stroke, fed by Weber fuel injection and an electronic ignition system, all of which was ahead of its time. The 5-speed transmission with a dry clutch was completely new for Harley Davidson, and it took a long time to figure out. The 4.5-gallon fuel tank and a claimed weight of 390 pounds gave this bike a lot of interest to the street rider, and the two-faced paint scheme was as far from typical as Harley could get. The legacy of the VR1000 was the application of modern technology to production Harleys. The VR engine was handed over to Porsche for reworking into a reliable, street-legal engine. They came back with a design that retained the basic dimensions and 60-degree architecture of the VR, but shared no parts in common. The Revolution engine, announced in the summer of 2001, was the direct descendant of the VR, producing a claimed 115 horsepower and 65-pound torque through a 5-speed gearbox introduced in 2002. The V-Rod combined a powerful, modern motor and quickly became the finest Harley Davidson that no one wanted. It was an anticlimactic end to the VR program, with Harley yet to return to the superbike circuit. There are a lot of stories about the VR1000 and the evolution of its development, not to mention the David and Goliath story about the bike and the Briton. But one thing that should be commended is the attempt by an American brand to compete at the highest level of motorcycle racing, an effort we haven't seen in many years. The bike still maintains a solid style and proof that a liquid-cooled Harley power plant isn't necessarily a bad thing. The VR1000 program will go down in history as a flop, but the design elements and the creative thinking of American engineers is something I think many motorcycle enthusiasts can appreciate.